Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this space. I cannot believe we are in week 11. It has gone by so fast, really. It seemed like such a larger space of a course when we began, I'm sure. Looking at the number 12 weeks, yes, 3 months of your life, of your time. Yet here we are already on 11 weeks. So we will have an assimilation. Actually, no, we will not. You guys are Saturday, so we will meet again next Saturday for our beautiful 12th space. Oh, bittersweet. All right, Divine Ones, we are going to jump right into this material. Now, we went into facilitating AQE 1 course-wise. We talked about, I'm pretty sure I did this with you guys. Forgive me. I have two AQE1 one-on-one students, and then I have my AQE1 masters and AQE2 masters still. But here in this space of the 11th week, I feel like you want to say the 11th hour, I really want to convey to you, when you teach Acasma, to really support your students, and you may convey this to yourself even, yes? To trust themselves, to really allow the space, allow Acasma, right? Get out of the head of, am I doing this right? Am I following the right order? Be there for your students. Some of them will come into you, if you teach, some of them will come in, and this can be, for those who aren't going to teach, this can be for you, even how you've been looking at yourself, maybe. But remember that this is a higher vibrational space of connection filled with these beautiful, divine, higher dimensional beings of light. They are there, 100% real. And as we continue to move into this space of ourselves, this higher space of ourselves, their presence is more prominent. The communication is more open, clear. So conveying to your students this is such an important part, because much of energy healing has been in the past taught that they needed to do certain things in a certain way or it wouldn't work. I just love Acasma so much that it gets emotional when I think about this space. We have moved into this higher space of ourselves in which we no longer have to come from that type of judgment of God, of goddess, of divinity, of our connection to. And we can trust and lean in more. That we really aren't alone. We really aren't alone. We really aren't separate. We really don't need to jump through hoops or do XYZ in order for something to be its most powerful state, if you will. We need to allow. So if you don't, I'm going to talk about a lot of other things, but if you don't take anything else out of this space today, take out to convey to your students to trust themselves and allow. And when they trust themselves, they're trusting that they are the bridge, they are the conduit, they are the way in which this higher vibrational space of connection happens. Their client reached out to them, or your family member, whatever it is. That is the intent set by them energetically. Their action connecting with you. Those of you who are in my abundance course, there you go, right? Intention and action that align is power. So your client sets an intention, then sets an appointment, intention and action, and connects with you, action, intends to receive, and then you are the bridge. You are the bridge. And sometimes when I hold session spaces, I go through the stuff I've taught you and we'll reiterate and go over it again. I go through, being present with the space, allowing, reading, picking up on anything I'm sensing or feeling. And that comes in many ways. I do not see visually everything I share. So when I share what I say I experience or see, doesn't mean I saw it. I could have felt it. I could have had an inkling in my mind. I could have heard the word duck or owl or whatever it is, angels, dragons. I could have seen a vision. But there's no particular way that this has to happen, because God, Goddess, Source, Prime One, whatever you want to say, is too vast for that. And here's the thing, we're done boxing up Source. We really are. Those of us who do this work are done boxing up Source and saying that it can only come in one way, shape, or form, and only to those who do this, that, or the other. But Acasma comes in and says, no lid, no box. Let Source be Source. Let that flow. So that's what you're kind of imparting, yes? Now you're in a master level, so you're not going to go so deep into all these things that I'm taking you into and asking you to look at. But to impart, trust, and allow, this is the stuff you need to look at. You need to feel it in your being, that you trust and allow. That you know with everything in you, it is always greatest and highest good. That you see from the vantage point of what is right. And now do not expect your student in AQE1 to see what is right away, because most all have been programmed to look for what's wrong and then talk about it as much as they can, as much as we can. And now those of us who do this work, we're living in a different space, right? And so allow them time to catch up. You may find a little frustration here and there, depending upon the space that you're connecting with. But just remember, we all walked in a certain path at a certain time, and someone gave us compassion along the way, right? And how much opened up, how much flow opened up when we gave ourselves compassion, ourselves understanding, and ourselves love. So we really do create, I think, with Acasma AQE1, we create a space for nurture of the being, for the remembrance and the reconnection to the earth, to the I am, to the soul, and to also love oneself again. I think you can all agree with me on that that's a lot, that's what happens here. And what that really is, what that really looks like, without outside influence skewing that in any way. So here's something that's been coming in a lot lately with a lot of our family with AQE in different levels of course space. You guys are working in your dream space, you're working in workspace, in just like traveling. I think Julia was mentioning in the chat when she goes to the pool, or when she's on the train, and anywhere and everywhere she is. And what she experiences with, but really what you're doing is you're being your higher light. Acasma is a higher vibrational space of connection, and you are being that space of you. And some will say, well, what do I need to do to clear a church, or to clear a site, or to offer healing? And yet all of you have also, those who have asked have also at the same time shared powerful stories of what you've already done at work with coworkers or family members or on travel. And I think what we're doing is we're seeing, we're witnessing, and you will witness this as well if you teach, and even with just clients or family members who reach out. But we're witnessing the human becoming more aware of itself and dropping more structure of what do I need to do, in what way, when, how, and acknowledging the divinity of the wholeness present within you, period. Period. Now, when you teach AQE1, you need to teach the symbols, you need to teach the keys. They are how they will, the student will consciously absorb, if you will, for lack of a better word, or connect in with the energy frequency of that higher vibrational space of connection in which these reconnections take place. We lift the student up vibrationally to where they can remember they are worthy of their own love, that they have a Mother Earth, that their soul spaces can find solace in returning home, that the I am is never separate. So those keys are crucial. You need to teach them and teach what they mean. But even if they're just thinking root reconnection, they do not have to draw or even hold it in an absolute certain way. I teach that you always do those main spaces in every session you have, even if you have a session with somebody once a week, and that the first time you have it with them, it's reconnective. The next time it's a blessing, a strengthening. But trust yourselves more and more, and teach that to your students, to trust themselves. Follow that inner knowing. If you're sitting in a church or driving by a church or walking by a playground or a school or an office building or a sacred site, doesn't matter, and you feel to be specific with the way in which you impart Acasma to the space or a person, see the symbols, see the root, the soul, the sacred heart, the peace and balance, see them and intend them to be whatever the space or the person needs for greatest and highest good, and then allow. Now, another thing I really want you to key into at a master level, and absolutely it's wonderful if someone keys into it at a foundational level of AQE1, but it may, depending upon the student, it may be more comfortable for them as they go to open this door. But the team, the light team, the ones that many of you will say, I felt the hand on my shoulder or the hand on my crown, or I think Julia wrote in, her client felt hands in their chakras, I think the energy centers. So these teams of light are real. They've been with me for many, probably longer than I know, but many years I've been aware of them. And this is how I understand it. They are with the one facilitating, and they're also a team with the one receiving. And if you're doing a group, everyone receiving team is coming in, their personal team, and that happens for one-on-one as well. But there's also an Acasma team. So these are specific beings that are this consciousness, this Acasma higher dimensional space consciousness. They work there, they live there, they are there. And in many ways, they are us. We've talked about that in depth as well, or spaces of us. But what I want to impart is that you really start allowing yourself to sense them more. And when you're holding a session for someone as just a facilitator, not a teacher, family member, friend, client, you're holding a session, you already saw in your head, you allow the session to commence, you see and feel the space and get in there. Let it happen first. Don't just jump and go, root, I got to do the root, sense them, sense that, like you're letting a dial, like a phone. Do you remember in the day? And we used to call people and it would ring until they answered. Yes? All right. So when you're doing a session like that, it's like you're dialing in on them, the Acasma flow, thinking of your person or your group. Or if you're making a video for online, you're thinking of everyone who will receive your work, anyone who will come in contact with this space. And then you're allowing the dial, ring, ring. And you just allow that for a moment. And then all of a sudden, it's like they pick up the phone. You'll feel the connection and allow. And then you can read the space, see the space, and then you would allow yourself to, I'm asking you now, to really know with everything in you that those teams are there. And even if you're not feeling a lot or seeing a lot on your end, do what you are been trained and taught. And teach this to your students, say that to them. Even if you know, if you don't feel anything, like maybe you're having a session space where you're just not really feeling or seeing a lot, trust with everything in you that it's happening. Greatest and highest good is happening. And then know and sink into that space of connecting with the teams and allowing. And then just be present, pick up on whatever is coming in whenever it does come in. And it does change sometimes, you know, you go in and things may be quiet, and then all of a sudden you start picking up on more, and then maybe it gets quiet again, or maybe it's loud the whole time. You're seeing and feeling everything the whole time. They can all be different, and they most likely will be because of who you're connecting with, your client or your family member or your friend. That does matter. I don't know how many you all have done already. In each of you, your paths may be different, but I know with the work I do, and I pretty much work with somebody every single day, some days multiple people, I can tell, and there's no judgment on this, it's just understanding that I've gained. I can tell how consciously aware they are when I'm connecting with them. I can also tell who has more fear about even having that space with me, or energy itself, energy session itself. I can tell because those who are fearful, it is not as much of a welcoming flow. It's almost like you have to give it a minute for the love to overtake the fear and to heal the fear. And then when the fear heals, you can begin to see the work happening. So, and you might have a whole session where all that's happening is fears being healed. Yes? And you allow that, trust that. But the space with the teams felt very important that I bring that up today, to ask you guys to begin to key into that more in your own work as facilitators or self space. Even if you're doing this for yourself, be really open in your heart and in your mind when you're having a self session. If you're closing your eyes and you're just allowing yourself to connect in, see your root, you're doing all the, you know, the basis for blessing your being on all those levels. And then you're allowing and you're witnessing your own space. Like, imagine your team. Think of where they are, what they're doing, and then start seeing if you're feeling anything correspondently with your body. I've done that before, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I think they're up by my head. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, somebody has their hand on my head. There's something about, we're being given the opportunity, we're teaching ourselves how to utilize our inner knowing more on a higher vibrational level. We've been training ourselves with discernment and other spaces of our expansion of consciousness to live our lives that we have as human beings. But now we are also being asked to fine tune and open up the spaces of ourselves as human beings who are also quantum healers in higher vibrational spaces. So we are working with teams of light, and many times you will also be working with, and you know this, but I feel to reiterate, the spiritual team of your person or your own self. If you have Christ or Mother Mary or Green Tara or dragons, or, you know, whatever the spiritual connotation of the being is who's going to be in that session. And that can change as the person changes and opens up and moves into different spaces of themselves. But the basis of what you will teach, if you decide to teach, and what I want to offer here as well is anyone who decides to teach, when you set up your first student, your first AQE1 student, and or your first group class, because Meredith, you know this, she went right into a group course. She didn't do an individual first. She went right into a group course with 9 students for her first course. Susie went directly into her first space, was a one-on-one. Many of you know Susie, and she's in AQE2 master right now. And she has an AQE1 student going on right now, a course. And she's teaching in Portuguese. So how beautiful is that? But when you are teaching, if you decide to teach, allow yourselves, I know. Okay, I'm hearing 2 different things here. All right. So stay in a space also where you meet them right where they're at and remind them they can be whatever they are, because they're not used to that. Most people are not used to that. and they think that it's going to be that they have to find a new space of themselves spiritually or something like that, which they very well might, but it's not a way in which Acasma does not make anybody do anything different. It meets them right where they're at. So you can convey that to them as well. But when you teach, if you decide to teach, I want to make this available to everyone. And that is whether you do an individual person or a family member or a friend or a group, you let me know if you want before you put it in writing with your person or advertise it to promote it or whatever. You let me know if you want. I will be like available to you once a week to run stuff by me via email or direct message. Of course, I'm always here for emergencies and if something comes up and you have a question. But if you want to know that you have that connectivity with me to ask me anything about AQE1 while you teach AQE1, then I just want you to know that you can count on that. You know what I mean? And I won't be with you in your teaching space, right? That's up to you. But I'm here if you say, so I'm going to do this week, and I'm going to go by the itinerary, the template in the PDF, and I just had a question about this, or does this sound right to you? I'm right here. Or your student has a question that you're just not sure on, a Acasma's view of this or whatever, or you think you know, but you want to have that surety. I'm right here. So I make that available to everyone when you step into that first teaching space. And I would think you would know that anyways, but I just want everyone to know that that is available to you. And the time frame you teach in, I've talked about that before as well. 5 weeks works very well for AQE1. It allows for each space to be touched on, the person to process the energy, assimilate the energy. And, Julia asked a very good question in the chat where she said, is it necessary to do that attuning every week and the class every week and an attuning every week? And I believe it is. That is my understanding as for what I have witnessed with it and what I've seen it do in people's lives, because everyone is assimilating and processing all of this information every single day of every single week of every single space of the course. And it's like it's gauged to be incremental. So even though the spaces can feel big, they are always within the range of highest good for the receiver. But my understanding is that that is optimal. And I also love this. Some people will say, they may ask you, I have people say this a lot. Oh, I love that session. That was so wonderful. How long do I have to wait before I can have another session? And we have proven over and over again, you can't overdo love. And that's basically what you're doing when you're having an Acasma session, is you are in a space of love, divinity, and it's gauged to be, it's not like you just can't OD on that. You can't have too much of it. It's not going to be anything negative. That has nothing to do with Acasma and this space of higher dimensional, higher vibrational connection. So if your person wants to meet you once a week, or I've had people, at one point I had one woman and she was doing 2 to 3 spaces a week. They were smaller, but she was doing it in a coaching way as well. So we would talk about what was going on in her life, and then she would have about a 15 to 20 minute session, and then we'd meet like Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a few weeks. She had a very big space of her life she was navigating, and that made her feel good. That made her feel safe, and she was able to embrace her wholeness the whole way through. So everybody is going to be met right where they're at. You might want to consider having a go-to answer for some of these spaces. So as you move into them, you're set and ready. You could make some notes in a journal. And then whenever you get asked these things, what's really nice is to make notes in your phone. And then when you get asked them and you're having to email somebody, you don't have to retype everything every single time. I did that for about a year or so, and then I realized I'm answering the same thing basically. And so I started being able to go and pull out answers, and then I was able to customize, the body somewhat, but the core of those bigger spaces were always the same answers. So you might want to think about that as well. If you move into this direction of teaching and holding this space with others, they will be asking you questions, and that's always a good way to handle it. So I know that some of you are not intending to teach, at least not right now. You know, it's a joke with Kate because she said if she would have seen the word teacher in the the product online, that she probably wouldn't have signed up, but she's glad she missed it because she's happy to be here. So it is a master's course in the level of self-expansion. And then it is a master's course in the level of you being able to convey it to another if you choose to. And whether that's a family member, a friend, or you open this up and do it like I do it. But at any time, if you need guidance with any of those spaces, I'm always right here. I'm always right here. So when you consider teaching or just being a master of Acasma at level 1, you are a master of the I am reconnection. And we've been talking about that a lot lately. We've been talking about the heart being the portal, the way in which you connect into source space, the way in which you as source space floods into this now. So remember the beauty and the divinity within this work you do. And when you're at work or you're with family or you're traveling or wherever it is you are, restaurants, the park, you can sit still and just be looking around, and you can hold intent in your mind, in your being, in your heart to send a cosmos flow to those around you as a blessing. I told you the story a while back. I think you all have heard it. When I was in the drive-through and the woman and the child in the car in front of me were having a bad time of it, crying and shouting and such. And I've told you the stories where I was at restaurants and baby was crying and was not feeling well. And I don't need to do my hands, you know. I don't have to. If they want to do it, I will let them. At this point, I don't have any issue with that. I don't have to sing light language, tone, chant, speak. But the power of your trust in the connectivity of what and who you are in all spaces of you and in all places that you are. You know, we have Maya. She's Aqe 3 now. Many of you know Maya. She's in Slovenia. She speaks quite often of how she just is this energy at all times now. It's always flowing. It upticks in certain spaces where she can feel it emanating out of her hands, even if she's just sitting there talking to somebody. That is the natural progression of you becoming your light. And us all moving into a space where the mind is okay with us intending and allowing. And the structured bullet points are not as needed for us to believe in what we are doing. So we teach them because when you come into this, you're not in the space you're at now. I think you'll agree with me, each of you, that when you first came in contact with my work and you came to the very first Aqe 1 class for the course space, that your understanding of yourself, of source, of consciousness, of energy healing, of all these spaces, yes, is different. And that is why we teach it the way we teach it. And that is why when you came into Aqe 1, day 1, I asked you to begin to embody it. And now look at you. I've heard so many stories from each of you on how this has been playing out in your lives, and you are embodying this higher vibrational space. So whether any of you teach and you impart that, remember the video when I said, oh, this is an impartation, and I was sharing, you don't have to do videos like that. If they come to you, and they came to me, I didn't plan it. It just started happening. And all of you watched that. So you understand what I mean. There was a time when I would simply sit here and read my notes. And then there came a time where I would go in to do that, and it would be just understanding the energy was so beautiful. No, wait, just allow, do whatever's coming to you. And it's still evolving, yes, and expanding. And I love that. And some of you with your clients or your students might just read your notes. You might feel to do your hands, or you might feel to sing or tone. There is so much power in you, in your gifts, and they're all so diverse. So just allow. I keep saying that, right? But just allow as you're ready, without judgment of, am I taking too long to be ready? Am I taking too long to allow my gifts? Allowing means not judging yourself on that either. And allowing also means allowing your gifts when you're ready. But when you are navigating this world and you want to impart healing, you want to share healing, know that it is emanating out of you with your intent. You don't have to touch anyone or hold your hands up in the air or on your lap, or if you will intend a Acasma flow, even in your thought, yes. And then allow. You are the door. You are the bridge. And it's an extremely beautiful thing to be. Thank you for being it. Thank you for being it. And thank you for being in this now and hearing you and remembering and choosing to, Julia said earlier in Being the New Human class, that it takes courage to embrace your wholeness. And she's right, it does take courage. So thank you for being courageous. Thank you for being courageous and brave and knowing there's more to all of this and being open to trust yourself and allow. And what's beautiful about Acasma, that you are able to facilitate at a master level and or teach, is that Acasma helps people remember that. Acasma reconnects them into that alignment that they are, but they have been very disconnected from. And you have the ability to offer that alignment to spaces, places, people, even individuals who are interdimensional. I think Kate had a vision with her stepfather she shared with us. Oh yes, he's still here. I think she had one with her father too, who isn't. But anyways, some people you will connect with may be people who have transitioned. Many of you are mediums and you pick up on that. Angela does that. Pretty sure Arlene does, and I know Julia does. Many of you might do that as well. But I have had you ask me, should I do you've said, I don't do a root reconnection because they're not alive. They don't have roots into the earth. And if they've transitioned, I agreed with you. And I said that I believed the soul reconnection was helpful, because if they needed it, sometimes we meet beings that have passed on or are working with us, or guides, or loved ones come in for a client or a student, and they don't need anything from us, and they don't want anything from us. And it's almost, I don't want to be mean to us or anyone who's ever been in this space, because I've been in this space, I understand it, but it's almost like we're offending in a sense of assuming they, because they have transitioned, they're not optimal in their alignment. But sometimes they're a guardian angel for a loved one, or a guide for a loved one, and they're fine. Meredith has a grandmother who comes into many of our session spaces, and I got her name and everything. I was like, there's a woman here, her name's Martha. And then Meredith wrote me and said, she showed me a picture of her, and she said, I have her picture on my altar. And I was like, yes, that's the woman. And she comes in sometimes, and she doesn't need any help from us. She just wants to share her love and be near Meredith. So it's quite interesting and fascinating and beautiful. And the more you continue to tap into and trust your connection to that higher vibrational space of you, the less and less you even come in with connectivity with what many would call like lower, slower vibrations or entities. Angela and I were having this conversation as well. The more you rise in vibration of what you see for yourself and how you see yourself and the fears you heal in your being, then when you are experiencing other spaces of the quantum, you're not experiencing the spaces that you may have in the past that may have held spaces that you were kind of afraid of or feeling uncomfortable with, because your energy is not connecting in at that level anymore. You're connecting in with these higher dimensional beings of light. You're spending your time in those types of spaces. And Angela conferred that as well as to her experience with this and how her life has shifted since she has healed fears inside of her, and she has connected in with her wholeness more and anchored into her understanding of herself as this eternal being in human form, that her mediumship has changed. It's become much more divine light based, higher light based, higher vibrational space. So that's fascinating and beautiful, and makes complete sense as well for when you think about what you focus on expands. If you're focusing on your wholeness, you're expanding that into all spaces of you. Again, that's a mastership space, so you wouldn't be sharing that as a teacher. That's something that I share for you in this space right now, but your understanding of it will allow you to convey to anyone you do ever teach, or you're just friends with, that has these spaces of themselves where you have something you can share that would offer benefit and guidance to them where they are at. So, all right, what I'd like to do is I'm going to be doing your C2C. I'm going to do it at wait, hold on. I'm trying to do it so it's not super late for Julia in case she wants to do it tonight, because I tried to take into consideration and move it around a little bit here and there to accommodate all these different spaces we connect with. Okay, so we'll do 5 o'clock Eastern time. That I'll be doing it, but you guys all know it's quantum, so you can do it anytime within 24 hours or so. Listen to the music link you choose. You have 2 in your portal. Lay down if at all possible. Allow. Really give yourself space to connect in and receive and be present with your team, with the Acasma team, with your spiritual guides. Really get present with your body. If you're having any type of health stuff going on, see your cells, infuse them with God space light. Watch Acasma golden white light move through your blood, your bones, your marrow, your systems. Actions in alignment with intent are power. Take some action. You know how. You're quite equipped. Utilize that C2C to its fullest. Make note of anything you pick up on. And if you want to just let go completely and say, I let go completely. Please do what is my greatest and highest good. All those who come in the greatest degree of love, whatever you want to say, and just allow however you need to meet this space, meet it, but really get the most from it. Yes. I'll post my video by tomorrow around lunch or so, because I'll do it in the morning and then I have to edit it and get it up on the portal. But I always tell you guys on IG when it's up in the group chat. So you'll have that. You'll have your tuning and your class video up by lunch tomorrow. And then we'll have our class next week. But I will be emailing you guys. I want to prepare you right now. I'm going to be emailing you with some questions on a QE1 Master Teacher course. And you can use your PDF. You can talk to one another. It's not going to be hard. It's not a test. You can't fail. But it will allow me to understand if there are any spaces that I need to take more time with. And if you have a space that doesn't show up in the questions, but you really want more understanding on that for AQE1, please let me know. And then next week we will have our time together and we will be able to go over everything and seal this up with the greatest degree of love. So I'm very excited. And then if you'll mark your calendars now, if it's at all possible, I would love to have you join us. We're doing a big AQE graduation on May 21st, I believe it is, at 2 p.m. It's on the calendar on the website. But that will be, all of our levels will be there. So we have a big group that came out of AQE 1, 2, and 3. And then we have you guys from AQE 1 Master. And our Master 2 level will not be fully finished yet, but we might work that in somehow, because I think they will only have 1 week left. So we'll see how that goes. But any questions, comments, or feedback for me, I am here. Please email me, let me know, and continue to share in your chat on IG. That's a beautiful space. And you guys are really being there for one another as you're all witnessing and moving through these spaces of you, spaces of you. All right. So 7 p.m. tonight, you'll have your space with your tuning. All right. If you can connect in then, do it. If not, within 24 hours would be really beautiful. I love you. I love you. I love you. All right, beautiful ones. Have an incredible now.